In the second episode of Lovely Runner, Sol is crying in the rain. Seon Jae comes up to her and shares his umbrella. He asks her why she's crying. Sol remembers he asked her the same question before, and it makes her cry even more. People notice her crying, and some students think it's a fight about love. Seon Jae takes Sol away to another place. The rain keeps falling, and they wait under a building. Sol feels embarrassed and keeps looking at Seon Jae secretly. Meanwhile, he wonders why she's upset. She tells him she's a fan of his swimming, and he reminds her of her old dog. Sol feels embarrassed after telling Seon Jae about her old dog named Otter. But Seon Jae doesn't believe her story and gives back her watch. Sol recalls some embarrassing things she said the day before. When she arrives at class, she acts overly excited to see her classmates, worrying them. Hyunju, her friend, is especially concerned after Sol storms out of the class. Meanwhile, Baksun, Sol's neighbor, chats with Ms. Kwan, her neighbor, about finding a tenant for a nearby house. Ms. Kwan suggests selling the house and buying an apartment in Pandyo. Baksun is annoyed with Ryu Seon Jae for not returning a rented movie. She calls him, but he denies renting it. Later, Im Ji-eum, Baksun's son and an aspiring actor, interrupts their conversation while practicing a monk role. Back at school, Sol struggles to focus because she's thinking about time traveling. She tries to trigger another time jump with her watch, but nothing happens. When the teacher calls on her, Sol lies about having a stomachache and goes to find Seon Jae. In the gym, Sol sees Seon Jae but gets distracted by the smell of cigarettes. She finds some boys smoking and is about to confront them when Tae-sung, another student, appears and scares them off. They hide from more bullies, but Tae-sung grabs her arm and urges her to run. They escape and argue, but a teacher interrupts them. Tae-sung leaves, leaving cigarettes and a lighter with Sol. The teacher punishes Sol, thinking she's a smoker. Seon Jae sees Sol and thinks she smokes. He warns her and helps her avoid trouble with the teacher. Outside, Sol runs into Tae-sung again, who warns her to stay out of his fights. Another girl, interested in Tae-sung, intimidates Sol. Later, Sol seeks advice from Hyunju on getting close to someone. Hyunju thinks Sol is hopeless, but suggests sending a friend request on social media. She questions Sol's quick recovery from Tae-sung's rejection. Sol finds a love letter she wrote to Tae-sung the day before but doesn't remember it. Meanwhile, Seon Jae rejects Sol's friend request on social media. The next day, Sol and Seon Jae meet at the bus stop, but Sol feels disheartened. During the ride, Seon Jae saves Sol from falling. They both get off the bus, but Sol struggles and drops Seon Jae's umbrella. He chases the bus to retrieve it, impressing everyone, but denies helping Sol on purpose. They argue, and Seon Jae implies he denied her friend request because he thinks she smokes. Sol challenges him to smell her fingers, but he refuses. In-hyuk witnesses their interaction and teases Seon Jae. Meanwhile, Sol learns about a swimming competition that ended Seon Jae's career and tries to stop him from participating. She tries to warn him about the future, but every time she mentions it, time freezes. She tries a different approach, advising him to check his arm before the competition. Meanwhile, Sol's mom and Seon Jae's dad argue about a rented movie, and Tae-sung gets into trouble with the police. Sol tricks Seon Jae into believing he's in danger of a water ghost and persuades him to avoid water for 3 days. Tae-sung reveals his troubled family situation to Sol, and they talk later. Tae-sung apologizes to Sol after a misunderstanding, but Seon Jae accuses her of mocking him that night. Seon Jae can't stop thinking about Sol's warning and goes to the school to train. He misunderstands Sol's presence and accuses her of stealing. Sol tries to explain but fails. Meanwhile, Seon Jae's dad discovers a questionable movie under his bed. On her way home, Sol almost gets hit by a car but is saved by Seon Jae. She faints in his arms. In a flashback, Seon Jae reveals he has always had feelings for Sol. He also learns that she confessed her love to him, but he accidentally denied her friend request. The episode ends with a glimpse of the future, where Seon Jae carries a picture of them as teenagers in his hotel room on the day he died.